So tell me who you are and whatever you'd like to share about your family.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi,
I'm
Bonnie.
Bonnie Gay. Gay is actually my middle name, but that's what I use currently as my name. Um, I was born and raised in El Paso, Texas. Lived there for many, many years. And when I think back, I was very lucky to be born in such an interesting place.
Yeah.
El Paso is on the border of Mexico, um, with Juarez being the closest Mexican city. And when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, we would go to Juarez for lunch. We'd
Oh,
go to
wow.
Juarez to get our hair done or our nails done.
You
It
could
was
just
a
drive
simple,
right over. It was not a
we would
big deal.
drive right over. They would ask you what you're carrying, what you're checking in. You say nothing, what you're bringing back, nothing.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you could park on one side and walk across, but we had favorite places for lunch.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
hair, they would lacquer your hair up. It would stay done for 3 weeks if you left it there. And
Yep.
everything was very cheap. And so, of course, everyone learned how to speak Spanish, because if you're in Mexico, you're speaking Spanish.
Right. Right.
When I was growing up, my mom was always in school. She was always taking classes or she was teaching.
Oh, cool.
And so we had we always had a maid in the house.
Uh-huh.
And so they would come over on a bus, and my dad, who says he never spoke a word of Spanish in his whole life, would be in charge of picking the maid up and bringing the maid to the house. And then we had a maid's room, and she would stay with us the whole week.
Okay.
And so it was like learn how to speak to the maid, or you're
Yeah.
sunk. So
So
I
you
learned how
just
to
picked
speak
up
Spanish.
Spanish?
Pardon?
You just picked up Spanish sort of naturally?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And I ended up being bilingual, and have have really benefited from it.
Yeah.
I was a tutor with the Nashville Literacy Program for many, many, many years until this stupid pandemic.
Yeah.
And if I had a Mexican, Spanish speaking student, I
Uh-huh.
wasn't supposed to really speak Spanish with them to be teaching them English. But if we would get stuck, it was really helpful if I
Oh,
could
yeah.
explain in Spanish. And when I worked, I very often had to um, help out with a Spanish speaking person. So it's really, I love speaking Spanish. It's something that you have to do constantly, or you forget words or whatever. I'm very good at understanding,
Right.
but
Right.
I do forget words every now and then because I just don't have the opportunity to speak it anymore.
That's fantastic. What a great benefit of where you were born.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And knowing these, we had long-term maids. We kept them for years and years. They became part of the family. My
Yeah.
mother was instrumental in getting papers for several of them so
Good.
that they could come across legally as workers.
Yeah.
And then when it was time for them to go home, they got in Daddy's car and he drove them home. And somehow they got along great, even though he says he never learned how to speak Spanish. I always wonder if he really learned enough to get by. I don't
Right.
know.
Right. Hopefully they all
Um,
felt comfortable.
they did. Daddy was a very sweet man.
Yeah.
Also, El Paso was very warm, and the neighborhoods we lived in always had neighborhood swimming pools.
Oh,
So
that's
my
cool.
folks always bought a membership in the pool,
Uh-huh.
and my sister and I would pack up our tuna sandwiches in the mornings in the summer and head to the pool, and we didn't get back home until it was time for dinner.
That's neat.
So we both learned to swim really well, and later I joined a swimming team, and
Oh,
um,
cool.
those are very fond memories of being at the swimming pool.
Right. Oh, yeah.
We would buy chocolate candy bars and sit them out in the sun so they'd get all melty and yummy.
To go with your tuna sandwich.
Yeah. So I had one brother and one sister, and I was the middle child, the scary middle child. And I went to college after high school. I went to college there at UTEP, University of Texas at El Paso, for
Okay.
about a year and a half.
Uh-huh.
And then I got married and I had 2 children, and just stayed home. I After I had my first child, my son, I tried to pack him up with the diaper bag and all that. I didn't have a car. We only had one car. My husband took it to work. I
Yeah.
would walk to a bus stop in the searing heat
Oh,
and get on the bus, and then get off the bus at the daycare center, leave him, go to my job at Sears, which I hated, then go pick him up in the afternoon. And I didn't like the way they cared for him. And so
yeah.
after a while, we decided I would just be a stay-at-home mom.
Gotcha.
So that worked out better. And I was always involved in the kids' activities, and
Right.
so that worked out really well. And
Right.
then we transferred to Benson, Arizona with my husband's job.
Uh-huh.
He was with El Paso Natural Gas. And Benson was a very, very small town, about 2.5 hours outside of Tucson. And the company housing we lived in Benson, I think it was 10 houses, 5 on one side of the street, 5 on the other. The guys all worked together, and the women all stayed home and raised their children together. And for the most part, we got along.
Right.
And then on the weekends, when the husbands were home, we would get in the car and go into Tucson for grocery shopping and stuff
Oh.
like that, because Benson was just really a nothing town.
You did drive 2.5 hours to get your groceries for the week, essentially?
Hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
We would put ice chests in the car,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so it was always an adventure to go into town and get our food.
Yeah.
My dad, who was the sweetest thing in the whole world, came to visit us the first time, and I had never moved away from El Paso before. This was an adventure for all of us.
Yeah.
And he came out to, they called it a camp. Some called it number 6, because we lived at number 6, which was,
Oh,
I guess,
gotcha.
the sixth facility of this kind or something.
Okay.
Anyway, my daddy took one look and he said, "This is a hellhole." And I'll never ever forget that. He wanted to pack me up and move me home so bad.
And it was the company's house, right? So did they just
Company housing.
assign you a house?
Yes, they told you where you were going to live. The beauty was that we would pay rent. I think it was like $25 a month or something like that.
Okay.
So for a young couple starting out, that was great, because we were able to put money aside to
Okay.
eventually buy a house,
Okay.
which we did. We bought a house in Tucson after living out in the boonies for quite a while.
In the camp.
Yeah, in the camp. And
Gotcha.
behind us in Benson, Arizona, there was old Tucson used to have there was a place called Old Tucson, which was a movie location. And a lot
Oh,
of the
okay.
old Western movies you see were actually filmed in Old Tucson.
Okay.
And that was a location just behind our company housing in Benson, Arizona.
And did it
So
have
when,
buildings and things, or was it just
yes,
oh,
it had buildings, some were just fronts.
okay.
Um, but I've seen several movies that were filmed there.
Oh,
And
that's
when we would
cool.
have visitors come, we would take them out to Old Tucson, and the caretaker would show us around and tell us what movie was filmed where, and it was
That's
very interesting.
oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And my kids started school in Benson. The bus would come, pick them up, haul them into the teeny teeny town of Benson, and
There was a school there?
yeah.
And with all kindergarten through 6th, or what was the range for
You know what, Jenny? I was trying to remember. I need to call my daughter and ask her. I just remember putting them on the bus, and I don't, and they were young, so they were in younger grades,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't remember if
And
it
did
had a high school or what.
okay, because you all moved before they got up into the
We
upper
did, we
okay,
did. After Benson, we were transferred to Gallup, New Mexico,
okay,
and we thought we were really living high there, because that was a town of 20,000 people.
which was huge compared
It's huge, and they had 2 stoplights, and they had stores and restaurants, and we were really living high.
right, right, right.
And Gallup, it was a very high elevation, and so we had snow up there.
Oh, oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
snow was a common occurrence. We bought lots of sledding type toys, and we all
Okay.
went and bought heavy coats, and
Oh,
it
that's
was
fun.
really an experience having come from El Paso in Arizona.
Right.
So I think that brings us up to
So from Gallup, then remind us
from
how you
Gallup.
got to Nashville.
From Gallup, I moved to Nashville,
Okay, got it.
and
And your
yeah,
daughter finished school here, right?
she finished her senior year here.
Okay.
There was a very nice student that she met there who promised me that he would come pick her up every day and make sure she got to school, because it was her senior year. She
Yeah.
didn't know a soul. Everybody was so happy celebrating senior, and she was miserable.
Yeah. It's a tough
But
time to move in. Yeah.
I needed help to get her there
Yeah.
and get her graduated, which she did. and
Yay.
and then she went on to go to Belmont.
Okay.
um, she got her undergrad there, and she went to Murfreesboro, and she got her graduate degree in occupational occupational psych, I think was the title of it.
Okay.
And she's had really good jobs since then. And she lives 10 minutes from me, and we're super, super close. So
Oh, that's nice. That's
yeah,
perfect.
that's been great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my sister is down in Franklin. And so that's nice to have somebody close by too.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I really love that. And I was able to travel quite a lot doing that, to
Okay.
New York and Chicago and Florida, to some of our large clients. And I did enjoy that. But I was looking forward to retiring. I worked way past the normal retirement age. And so I live not far from the church. I'm kind of around the corner. So
Okay.
every morning and every afternoon, I would pass the church
Oh, you would
coming
drive
home.
on Hicks there?
I'm off of Sawyer Brown and
Oh,
Hicks
okay.
down a street. So I mean, I'm really close.
Yeah.
And my folks were Jewish, and they they when they lived in Chicago and Detroit, they were around a lot of relatives,
Okay.
and so they practiced the faith more and the traditions and stuff.
Okay.
My brother was born with an open heart and
Mm.
needed open heart surgery, which was in its infancy back
Oh,
then.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So they told him to move to a warm, dry climate. So they moved to El Paso, Texas, where they knew not a soul.
Yeah. Wow.
But that saved him. And then he did get the surgery later, and he was actually written up in medical books. Um, the surgery was done at Houston by a brand new team of open heart surgeons. And
Okay.
that's what made him want to become a doctor, actually, too.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So, so I was looking for things to do once I retired.
Yeah.
And even though my folks were Jewish and always maintained membership in the temple, they I think they went on holidays maybe to services,
Yeah.
but they belonged to a Unitarian Universalist community, which split from the larger church in El Paso. And so growing up, I was very familiar with Unitarianism because of my folks. And
Okay.
then when I moved away, I would come back and visit, and they would always ask me to go to their service with them on Sunday morning,
Oh,
where I
nice.
knew an awful lot of people that I had grown up knowing.
Oh, right. Right. Right.
And then I went to visit my brother in California a couple of years ago, and he belonged to a Unitarian church in Ventura and had made a lot of friends there and was very connected with his church.
Okay.
So I got on your website, and I looked for meeting times and dates, and retired and went. Um, and I will tell you that when I walked in, there was no question of whether I would be welcomed
Yeah.
or accepted. Everybody was so warm and welcoming, and I felt like I had made a really good choice walking in the door that day.
Good.
Yeah, and since then I've joined the Women's Covenant group, and I've joined Credo, and love those groups and the people in them very much.
Yeah.
And so it's been a good thing.
Isn't it funny how even a congregation like ours, which isn't that big, you
Hmm.
still having that smaller group that you can really go deep with helps make it that
I
much
think it's
more
better than a real
fulfilling.
big group. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I have been especially so grateful for the women's group that you all have created because I have heard from so many members what a
It's
difference
very special.
it has made. Yeah, it
Hmm.
really is just such a wonderful group of people.
It is.
So, and that includes you. So there you
Oh,
go.
thank you so much.
Nice job. Yeah, you bet. I do. I love every single person in that group. I think it's one of those, I look forward to when I'm at the point in my life where I can have a group of women that I have time to to really be and talk with, you know? So, like you
I,
say, Bonnie, when you're done working, it's something to look forward to.
indeed, indeed.
um, so you have already told me tons of fascinating things about your life, but I would love to know, yes, you have, trust me. Um, what else is something somewhere you and I laughed about this unexpected insight question that I need to find a way to rephrase, but what else do you like for people to know about you, or what else is something that you have found as a way to connect with people?
I've been thinking about this, and um, I thought maybe just some unexpected things about me. I think that people who meet me always consider me, or had in the past at least, being kind of very straight. And I always have been. I follow the rules. I don't make waves. I um, don't take a lot of chances, maybe. Um, but when I met my second husband, he was a motorcyclist. And
Oh,
I took to that like crazy. And we didn't travel anywhere unless it was on a motorcycle. And sometimes I'd walk into work with my leather jacket or carrying my helmet because he had taken me to work. And I always was topic of conversation because it just didn't match with what
yeah.
people thought I was. To ride a motorcycle and enjoy a motorcycle must have meant that I was some sort of um, hellion or something. I
Alien
don't know.
inside, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
Isn't that funny
yeah,
how hellion is the first word that you think in your head
yeah.
for it? Yeah.
But our friends were our age and they were reasonable, sensible people. And we took lots of trips with a group, and we took many trips on our own and saw a lot of the country.
Yeah.
And I really loved it. I tried to ride my own and decided it was too much work,
Yeah.
and I couldn't really see the country. I wanted to sit as a passenger and enjoy the countryside and not have to worry about anything else. So
Yep.
um, it was really nice. And the other thing I thought of, my brother was really into music, and my sister's into music, and I missed that gene. And I went to a fair one day, and this person was playing a dulcimer, and I don't know if I had ever seen it. Was something at the not the fairgrounds, but Ellington Cultural Center here. They
Oh,
have a fall festival, and
yeah.
there was a group of musicians, and this gal was playing a dulcimer, and it sounded so pretty. And
Yeah.
she assured me it was not difficult to play.
Yeah.
And so I found a guy at Belmont School of Music who taught dulcimer, and I went and talked to him, and I bought a starter dulcimer, and I
Uh-huh.
started taking classes from him. And he was in town, a very, very well known musician. His name was Schnoffer, David Schnoffer.
Okay.
And about my third week of classes, he said, "Oh, our recital is next week." And I said, "No, no, no." I just started taking classes. And he said, "No, that'll be great. You come and, play what you can."
Yeah.
And Jenny, I was so nervous that when I got on the stage, my eyes unfocused. I couldn't focus to see
Oh,
people in the audience. It was
yeah.
just, but I looked down at my dulcimer and I played my song. And then he said, play it again. And I played it again. So it
That's
was really,
awesome.
it was crazy. But I took dulcimer lessons from him for quite a while after work.
Yeah.
I would, get off work and go over and take classes. And sadly, he passed away But I haven't picked up my dulcimer in a while, and I look at it every now and then, and I think maybe I'll try to pick it up again. It's a beautiful, soft
Oh, yeah.
sounding, very pretty instrument, very old. And I ended up buying a Schnaufer dulcimer, which was made by a company, maybe Gibson, for him per his
Oh,
specifications. And so I feel very fortunate to have it.
so is it one that he owned or they made it and his name was on it because it was made the way
Yes.
he wanted?
Yes.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so did you find that you said, unlike your brother and your sister who sort of had the music gene, did you just love playing or what did you find when you finally picked it up and started taking lessons?
I loved playing. When I was younger, I had tried the piano and I couldn't get my fingers to stretch like they needed to.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I was in high school, my mother insisted that I get a flute because she thought it was classy.
That's
And
what
I
I
tried to,
played.
and the violin. Those were both her choices for me.
They are very classy.
Well, and I hated them both because they weren't my choice, you know?
Yep, yep,
So
yep.
the dulcimer was my choice, and I felt very good playing it. Um, yeah, it was nice.
And I don't know enough about the dulcimer. Can you play song like can you play Christmas carols on it and songs that we would recognize? Is it easy?
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. I actually had I was in choir for many, many, many years. That's what got me through school. I loved singing, and I was in choir, but I
Yeah,
never learned how to read music.
yeah, yeah,
And so the dulcimer, I think that what we had was trying to remember. It's been a while, but I think it was more the fingering. So if I could look and see where my fingers needed to go, that's the
yeah,
way I did it.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, you
So
should,
I didn't become like a world class musician, but I was playing an instrument and it sounded really good.
and you were finding joy in it, which is
Much,
totally the
much,
goal.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so just tuck it away in the back of your mind that for next year's Christmas Eve service, it'd
Oh,
be really
fun.
cool if you played a dulcimer song because it
That'd
is,
be a reason to pick it up again.
oh, it is a gorgeous instrument. Have you gotten to hear Dave Peterson play?
No.
Oh, he's wonderful
Oh,
too.
really?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So,
Oh, I should get in touch with him because I bought a tuner and I'm not sure if I even remember how to tune it.
yeah, do reach out to him. He's wonderful. So,
Okay.
be glad to. I do
Dave
want to
Peterson.
Dave Peterson, Michelle, her husband, Michelle that was our speaker on Sunday.
Oh, great.
Um, I do want to go back to the motorcycle for just a second though. Did you have one of those trailers that hooked on behind the motorcycle and stuff or did you just travel really light or what? How did you do it?
We really learned how to travel light. Um, he called himself a motorcyclist, which was a very serious motorcyclist person.
Got it. All
And
right.
so, yeah, we learned to travel light, and we would stop in the evenings, and get a room or something somewhere. But
Okay.
we went to my favorite trip we ever took. We flew to New Hampshire,
Oh, nice.
rented a motorcycle there, and so we had to figure out how to get our luggage. It was very interesting. So we got our luggage to the motorcycle and got the motorcycle packed up. And then we went to Maine, which is where I had always wanted to go.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Oh my God, I ate lobster every day. And it was beautiful. And then we went to, oh, my brain, the bridge that goes under the water, Chesapeake Bay Bridge.
Oh, okay.
That was fascinating. And I was a little nervous being on the back of a
On a
motorcycle and going
motorcycle. Oh,
under
yeah.
the water, but it was so much fun when we got to the other end. I said, "Oh, please, let's do it again." I wanted to do it again.
And what time of year did you go? Did you go in the fall or was it another time?
We always went in the summer.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, it is so beautiful up there.
It is, and I'll tell you, motorcycle is scary because um, people have accidents, but they have accidents in cars too. You just have to, be aware of your surroundings and follow rules. And you see more scenery and you meet such fun people. They're interested in seeing this older couple get off a motorcycle, and they want to visit with you and learn about you
Right.
and where you've been. And so we met some really nice people along the way too.
What your story is. Yeah. So that leads perfectly into the next question, which is what's the most amazing place you've visited? So,
Well, I thought a lot about this when I was thinking about these questions. And even though we visited fabulous places, I will have to say that the most fascinating places I've ever been is where I lived in Gallup.
yeah.
We were on the reservation. I worked, and so my clientele was basically Navajo and Zuni, but we were right down the road from the Acoma Pueblo, from the Laguna Pueblo. There were Hopis in the area. We went to Window Rock, Arizona, which was the capital of the Navajo Nation. I
Okay.
mean, all this stuff was right down the road.
Okay.
We went to Mesa Verde cliff dwellings, which were amazing.
Yeah.
Learned about the Anasazi Indians who were, you know, long, long, long time ago that built these cliffs and lived in these cliffs.
Yeah.
Red Rock is New Mexico, was at our back door, and now they have hot air balloon lifts at
Oh,
Red Rock State Park.
okay.
And that was right next door to where we lived in the company housing.
Okay.
Um, right down the road was Grants, New Mexico, where they used to mine uranium, and you could go down there in this mine, and they've made a museum out of it.
Okay.
Um, One of the guys I worked with in Gallup, he graduated college and wanted to become an insurance agent, and his name was Johnny Charlie, and he was Navajo,
Okay.
and he taught me that the people in his community called him an apple because he was red on the outside and white on the inside.
So everybody has those interesting terms, huh?
Yeah, and here he was just trying to better himself, and go to
Right.
school, but yet his people were all still on the reservation, and he got married, and I was invited to his wedding. We became, we were friendly, so I really got to know people,
Yeah.
and that was fascinating. And I learned a lot about cooking. I make Navajo tacos with, yeah, and there's Navajo fry bread, which was really, really popular back there.
Uh-huh.
Johnny Charlie told me about his butcher. So I went to the Navajo butcher and bought some mutton
Okay.
and made mutton stew. And when the family all came in from work and school, every one of them said, "What is that smell?" So we threw the mutton stew away.
You weren't fans, huh? Did you try it at all? Did you?
It's very greasy. Mutton is very old.
Okay.
Lamb, it's not young.
Okay.
And
Got
I
it.
don't know what they did with it to make it not
More
smell so
palatable.
bad. And
I didn't tell you that little secret, Bonnie. That was
but there was also a restaurant, a locally owned restaurant, and we would go there always on the weekends. And the people that owned it were wonderful. And a lot of restaurants didn't allow this, but they allowed the Navajo people to come into the restaurant and approach your table to sell their jewelry or their pottery.
okay.
And I just love the cultural aspect of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It,
And
I loved it there. It was a great place to live. Very interesting.
well, and the work that you were doing would have given you such a unique, as an insurance agent or working with the insurance agent, would have given you such a unique insight into people's lives.
Well, when they had accidents, I
Right.
was the first person that they came and talked to.
Right.
When they came to the end of the 6 months and had not used their insurance, they wanted to know if they could get their money back. And I had to explain to them that, that wasn't how
Right.
it worked.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so I had very close relationships with our clients.
And you would have been such a reassuring presence for them. That's a good gift to be able to offer people.
Tried. I
Yeah,
tried
that's
because
cool.
yeah. And one thing I learned when I lived, how we're taught to look into your eyes when you have a conversation.
Right, right.
They are taught to look down, to not look straight in your eye, that it's not polite. So
It's
that
more
was really,
respectful to avert your eyes. Is that?
yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah. All those nuances that if you don't
yeah,
understand, you misinterpret.
yeah.
And you were given such a gift because I don't think in general we have a good. I have no mental map of what a modern day Native American's life is like in our country. And
And for, I mean, it's not easy. They live out on the. My husband, at the time, the guy with El Paso Natural Gas, his job was to go to the meters, these gas meters that were out in the middle of nowhere. And sometimes I would go with him. He'd call it a chart run, and he
yeah,
would pull the charts. And so we would go out into the reservation areas, and the people lived in hogans, not in teepees. The Navajos had hogans,
okay,
and they were in the middle of nowhere, and they had to bring water in, and then on the weekends they would come into town to do groceries, and the population on the weekends in Gallup would just soar because
oh, gotcha.
they all were coming in off the reservation, and life was not easy.
What
And
is
most of the kids went away to boarding schools,
okay?
so they didn't even grow up at home. They would come home, I guess, on holidays, but they were away, the little kids at boarding schools.
Oh,
Yeah.
what is a hogan? What does it look like?
A hogan is kind of roundish,
Okay,
and the door faced west where the sun came up in the morning.
okay,
Um, Pretty rough.
sort of
And
like
I believe it was adobe,
okay,
made of
okay,
adobe.
okay, got it. So much to learn, Bonnie. So much, always.
That's why I think about where, I've seen some beautiful places, but I've never learned more than living out there, and um,
Well, and
really interesting.
you took a good attitude to it, which makes all the difference too.
Yeah.
So I still
There was even a right and the wrong side of the tracks in Gallup, New Mexico. There were people that lived on this side of the tracks up on the hill with the big fancier houses,
yeah,
who looked down their noses at the people on the other side of the tracks who just didn't happen to have as much money as they did. And
the emotional energy of that is beyond me. I just don't have time.
well, and living in such a small town, you wouldn't think that that would even be an issue, but
Right,
it was. It
right.
was.
Takes all kinds, right?
Yep.
So, my final question, and you have been wonderful. I could talk to you for a very long time.
Oh, it's been fun.
Yeah. What is something interesting or joyful that you have learned during the pandemic?
I think that people are amazing and resilient. Some days I think that I'm really getting cabin fever and I'm going to lose my marbles. But the sun will come out, and I'll get in the car and go to Publix, and I'll think, oh, just to see people for 5 minutes or to talk to the checker, it just renews my whole spirit. And I must have sunshine. I do not do well when the sun isn't shining.
Yeah,
Um, and I just am amazed at how resilient we are, this month after month after month, and we do what we have to do to keep ourselves healthy and our neighbors and our friends healthy.
right.
And we look forward, which I think is really important. Still look forward to the time when this is over, when we can be back together again, and we know there will be light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah,
Um, and the technology aspect, I was one of them that thought that we used technology too much, and kids were on their phones too much and playing too much games. And now when I see the other ways we can use it, like these Zoom calls,
right.
it's amazing to me. And
Oh,
when you see
yeah,
these orchestras that play with everybody living in different places, and
right.
it's amazing.
This
Again, how
beauty,
people have figured this out, how to get through this time.
right. Oh, yeah. Imagine if this had been a decade ago when we hadn't had these resources available. It just would have been,
Yeah.
well, I mean,
Oh,
as you say, we would have figured it out, right? And we would have persevered. but it would have looked very different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the human connection is so important.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
I've once or twice met some ladies out at the church out by the garden, and
uh-huh.
just to talk to someone, and to we have to have that. We're social creatures. We need
Right.
that.
Right, exactly. Just to be in the space together, even with our masks on, just to see
Yeah.
somebody else's eyes light up or to
Yeah.
see them laugh
Yeah.
is still such a blessing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Bonnie, thank you a million times over. I have loved
Oh,
getting to learn more about you. This is really, really good.
well, thank you for asking me. And
Yeah,
again, I'm so happy to have found the congregation. It's been what I was looking for.
good. I want to be good when we're all, I've been dreaming about our first service back, our service of celebration, what we'll get to do. That's another song you could think of for the Dulcimer. So hopefully it will be soon, sooner rather than later.
I
So
think so. The time buzzes by so fast anyway.
yeah, yeah. Well, happy 2021 to you. Happy
Thank you,
New
Jenny. Same
Year.
to you. I hope you all stay well and happy.
Yeah.